Thank you. You know, I was just reflecting as I heard those words introducing me. And I would tell you, I did attend, was not Van Wezel, but we did have the symphony, did perform for either at 4th or 5th grade. And I was enchanted with the violins. I remember so distinctly watching the bows go up and down. And I went home and I said, Mom, I have to play the violin. So I did, and enjoyed that throughout my school career. But it drew upon, from me, a talent that I didn't know that I had, and an interest, just observing the wonderful, marvelous music that could be created when people joined together with their instruments. And I'll never forget that experience. But I really appreciate addressing this group because I am passionate about this. I believe strongly in the need for us to work together to really inspire what's happening in our classrooms and with our students. And I believe this is it could be one of the most important and successful collaborations that we have seen in decades between educators and community organizations in this area. We have to define what we want to see in our school community together. And I have to tell you, I love an organization like the Patterson Foundation that doesn't pretend to have all the answers and impose that, but creates these connections, these forums that allow us to understand what are the best ideas that will truly transform to meet those outcomes that we all want together. And I do this with the knowledge that I have to go back to the office and work on my Race to the Top grant application, which is how not to do it. Because if you've ever done a federal grant with deliverables and how are you going to meet them every quarter and how, each supporting activity, it's not transformational, I can tell you that. So it's exciting when I know, because of the individuals in the room and their life experience and the knowledge that you bring to this, that together things will happen that could never happen apart. That if we just wrote that individual grant and we didn't allow some of the thinking to occur, we would miss opportunities. And this work is so hard. We have to allow good minds to work together. And so that's what excites me about this opportunity. You've heard a lot this morning about Florida's Next Generation State Standards for Instruction. And it's really important for you to understand, as community organizations, our world. Just as it's important for us to understand your world. If we're going to make really good connections for our students, this is our world in terms of those standards that we must make sure our students have mastered in order to move forward from grade level to grade level, and frankly, to be able to graduate. So I believe strongly that you can help us bring meaning to some of those standards. The driest thing of learning is the objective. And there's not much there until it comes to life through the vision of a teacher and getting our students to understand what that means, not just in the lowest level of learning, that really literal level of learning, but at the highest level where critical thinking is involved in application. Maybe that won't be measured exactly like that at the FCAT, but that's what we want for our students. And the FCAT is frankly making an attempt to raise the level of that typical assessment. So I believe things like this can provide a forum, an opportunity for us to have learning activities that are really memorable for our students and rise the level of that rigor and relevance. So let's think about what that means. You've heard this tossed around about that DNA thing, and I thought, that we're using that a lot. What does that really mean? It used to be that in terms of connecting with the arts, the science organizations, our community pieces, it was an event. It was the field trip. It was the occasional, now the schooling's done, now we're going to have some fun. And that is probably in history, when you went to school, that might have been the thought in terms of how do you make a connection to the community. We've got to change that. Because I will tell you the skills that our students need to be successful require an integration of the world out there in our community and life in that classroom. You can help transform what's happening in terms of that learning so they see the connection. You can help our teachers be able to have visual representations and hands-on experiences that bring life to some of those dry standards. But it's going to take us working together to accomplish that. But if we can make it part of our DNA, so it's kind of the first thing you think of. I always talk in terms of when you're planning a lesson, you have to envision first, when my kids have it, what are they doing? What does it look like? When they have it at the highest level, at the application level, what does it look like? You have to start, a good lesson always starts with that vision. Because if you start just with the standard and say, okay, what's an activity, you may never get there. So together, we've got to transform those objectives you saw and say, when kids have that at the highest level, when they're applying it in life, when they're applying it in their community, what does it look like? Now, how can we work together to get there? When we think like that, and it's part of an automatic planning process, then it really will be part of our community DNA.